All right, Mark had a Simply Human tip of the week, and as a nod to my friend Mark, I'm going to do my own version of a Simply Human tip of the week. And I'm going to do that while I'm walking, so I hope this sound doesn't get annoying. My first one is going to be one where I share a podcast with you, little bits of it. The podcast is called Struggle Well, Live Well, Worry Less by Dr. Kevin Gilliland. He's a therapist in Dallas, and his podcast is very therapy-based. And in fact, this episode is number 60. It's one of his last ones that he did, and it's about how to pick a therapist. And I want to use this one because there's a lot of parallels in how to pick a therapist and how to pick a financial planner. So don't worry, this podcast that they do is very lighthearted. He compares some therapists to Big Bird. They're pretty funny. I think you'll enjoy it. And one of the things that they talk about is that therapists can get too squishy and get too into the feelings. And the interesting thing is, in my world, financial advising, we run from the squishy. We don't get too much. We don't get enough into the values and purpose, the reason why we do all this. We need to connect those dots more. And so we're actually the opposite of that. We're not too squishy. We're a little too much like the Tin Man.
Especially counseling coming out of COVID, I would say you want somebody that's going to have a style that's a little more interactive. The thing that I hear people get so agitated about and is very Big Bird-like is, well, how does that make you feel? Or where there's too much of a focus on how you feel and insight. And you go, look, when it comes to counseling, if insight doesn't have behavior change, who cares?
The next thing that I want you to listen to, I want you to hear them talk about, is your therapist holistic? It's a really good conversation.
It can't just be one thing, right? I also don't want to go to somebody who is just going to tell me like, okay, well, that's great that you feel that way, but like do something about it. Just push through, right? It has to be this balance of,
yes.
Do you feel like your therapist is looking at the whole picture? You as a person, your environment, your behaviors, your thoughts, your emotions, are they taking in all aspects of what's going on, or are they really only looking at one thing?
I'm going to stop for just a second. I want to point out a couple of things about being holistic. I'm going to give some specific examples of my world where I'm going to challenge you. Think about your financial advisor. Have they ever asked you for your tax return? Have they ever looked at your tax return? I guess this is where I point out that I'm a CPA and I've prepared thousands of tax returns. I don't do that anymore, but I am looking at it. And another problem with our industry, my industry, is we're trained to listen to win. I'll get more into this later, but listening to win in my industry is listening to make a sale. You probably have been there. You know exactly what I'm referring to. I think the appropriate thing to do is listen to learn. Again, we'll talk about this one later. I want you to listen to this next section where they're talking about, is one session enough for therapy? And this is another parallel where one session is not enough for a financial planner to learn everything there is to learn about you.
Also, to answer that other kind of piece of your question, if somebody, so say you have a loved one, you're like, okay, I think you need to go to counseling. And they go one time and they say, okay, I'm good. Bullshit. In 50 minutes, your therapist cannot, like we talked about, are they looking at the whole picture? You can't get the whole picture in 50 minutes. Maybe 3-4 sessions, right? Maybe that would be appropriate. But one session, you've just gotten through what brings you in, and the clinician going through their specialties and kind of their treatment plan, or what they would want to focus on. But in one session, that's really not going to cut it.
Yeah, if you go one and done, okay, no. One session, you're just figuring out, or do we have the same vibe? Can I talk to you? You didn't solve anything.
About you. In fact, like she says, in 50 minutes, if they already have a plan for you, she's calling BS. And I'm going to say the same thing. If you're sitting with a financial planner for 50 minutes and they already have a full plan for you, I'm going to call BS on that. If that's what you've experienced, you've unfortunately been sold something, because it's generic advice that's not necessarily tailored to you. As much as you would want it to be tailored to you, it's not. I hope you enjoyed their podcast, and I'm going to keep doing more of these. I hope this isn't too noisy outside, and I'll see you again soon.